where the real ones fight not foreign code. Beyond the junkyard, no script, no mercy, leave your mark. Beyond the junkyard, where the real ones fight not foreign code. Beyond the junkyard, no script, no mercy, leave your mark. Beyond the junkyard, 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 beyond the junkyard.
What is up, everybody? My name is Junkyard James. Welcome to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. If you are a avid listener or watcher on the YouTube live stream, you may be like, where's the man with the most sauce? Where is Cody Marinara? Well, to put it in simple terms, when you live in Hicktown, sometimes they're slow to to give you the necessities of the city life, like water. He lives in an area that a water main busted a couple days ago, and they're still without water. So he's dealing with that emergency there. Hopefully they can get that fixed. And what that means is, for the most part, unless he pops up here at some time in the show, we're rocking this show solo tonight, everybody. And I know what everybody is saying and to themselves. This is exactly the sound, I know it, that they are making. It's a little bit like this. Now, let's get into today's show. But first, let's talk about our favorite sponsor, your taste buds' favorite energy. That's W Energy. I'm actually drinking some right now. And all I did was mix it with my water, and it gives me the energy that we love. W Energy is a powdered energy drink that replaces those other inferior caffeine beverages, containing zero maltodextrin, zero fillers, zero artificial colors and dyes, and none of those so-called proprietary blends. You know, those products that like have to have labels that are like, this blend is not blah 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 by the FDA. For the most part, we don't have to worry about that with W. It's just good, jitterless energy, because the star of the show is the coffee fruit extract. There's none of those wacky chemicals in it. So no jitters, 100% focus, gets you the energy to get through your day, whether you're at work or podcasting or gaming or whatever you're doing. W Energy is your taste buds' favorite energy drink. And as you know, we got that hookup for you. You go to w.gg, use code Beyond the Yard to save 10% on your order. Again, that's w.gg, code Beyond the Yard to save 10%. All right, today's episode is pretty simple, right? We're going to talk about the two title changes that happened over the last couple of days. And I wish my guy Cody could have made it, because he's made it his point of the year. I feel like we talk about this almost every week now on the podcast. Why are we getting free championship matches on weekly television? I feel like, again, we talk about this basically every week. And what I want to say is, I agree with the sentiment. I don't think we need to have, championship title matches for free on TV every single week, like it seems We do, and this isn't a WWE thing or an AEW thing. Both companies are guilty of it. As we saw Monday, CM Punk wins the WWE Championship, a SmackDown title on Raw. Make that make sense for me. But just last night, Kenny Omega beats MJF on Dynamite for the championship. And so we're going to break down why I think this is dangerous territory, but also what are the differences between CM Punk beating Sami Zayn and Kenny Omega beating Maxwell Jacob Friedman. So let's start with the similarities. First off, I hate that we get title changes on free television. Like, not so much. I'm not so much against having title matches on free television. I just don't like title changes because the point of your pay-per-view then is what? Right? The pay-per-view should be where the story comes to fruition, right? Where the story, either hits part B, part C, or you start a new story and you reach the conclusion of the final story. When you introduce changes to the story in between pay-per-views, I think you start to run a dangerous game, right? So now obviously they're setting up for Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay and All In. Well, does the world title get defended at Redemption in just 3 weeks? We took a week of television away for telling the story of the world title at Redemption, just so that we can get a title change on AEW television. We gave Sami Zayn his moment in Saudi Arabia just so that 9 days later, with no real story behind the reason for the title change, CM Punk wins it in his hometown of Chicago. So there's a similarity here in that I don't necessarily think this was the right moment for both titles to change. WWE could have easily given Sami Zayn a SummerSlam match and let him have a SummerSlam championship defense. And if it's CM Punk, it's CM Punk. If it's somebody else, it's somebody else. But the fact that Sami Zayn gets the title for 9 days, we'll get to that point in my thoughts on that in just a moment, right? So that's the similarity there, is I think both sides, both companies are treating the titles as a prop. They're not the main focus. It doesn't necessarily matter who holds the title because it's just a prop, right? And so that's why when all of these wrestling fans who are like, well, the championship is just a prop to get the story involved. That's why I always push back on them and say it's not just a prop. You need to make the championship mean something. You should take it seriously with how you defend the title. And I don't see, in some instances, both companies, every company in pro wrestling, treat their top title as the top title. When we go and play charades and hot potato with the championship, you start to lose the aura of the belt. When we have a weekly championship matches with your top title, well, you start to make that title mean significantly less than if you have it defended once a month or once every couple months. I wasn't a fan of how Roman Reigns defended his belt every 3 months with his first reign as the tribal chief. I wasn't a fan of that, how he would disappear for the winter and then show back up just in time for WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Survivor Series and then disappear again. I wasn't a fan of that. But I'm also not a fan of the Darby Allin storyline where Darby defends the title every week on free television. Now, I thought it was interesting because Tony Khan was asked about giving free title matches to fans. And I thought Tony Khan's answer to the question was interesting. right? So Tony Khan says the reason for more title matches on AEW television is to give fans who can't afford the pay-per-view big matches to see. And so I understand that mindset, right? So Tony Khan, here's his full quote. Quote, "We're delivering at the highest level. It's great having these championship fights. When AEW is at our very best, you can tune in and see the top stars fighting each other in huge matches and big rivalries. To me, this has been some of the best AEW television ever. It's certainly some of the most world championship defenses and major main events we've had in a calendar year. And we're only halfway into this year. Having all these great championship fights on Dynamite and Collision and having the very best pay-per-views, our fans are having their cake and eating it too. You get the very best on TV and great wrestling product for fans who can't necessarily afford the pay-per-views. But you can expect a high standard watching AEW on weekly television. There are some fans who can't necessarily buy every pay-per-view, and they're still getting great wrestling every week. The cool thing about the AEW pay-per-views is that they are totally worth it. I try to put out an incredible pay-per-view every time because I never want to take for granted the people spending money on tickets or pay-per-views and delivering at an even higher standard than the incredibly higher standard we hold ourselves to week to week." So I totally get it. I get Tony Khan's perspective here, right? Like, some fans can't afford the pay-per-views, so we're going to give them title matches on TV. And I'm not, totally against having championship matches on TV. My problem is when it's a weekly thing. My problem is when it appears like your world champion is no different than your TV champion. What makes the TNT championship special? If your world championship is on the line every single week, that should be the job of the TBS and TNT championships. Those represent your TV networks. You should have weekly TNT and TBS championship matches every week. I would agree with that because that's what those titles were designed for. Your world championship is not a television championship. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with the overall premise of Tony Khan's message. Because you're not, and I think I said this message overall, right? Like, I get what Tony Khan is saying. I think I said this a couple months ago. This is my thought process. Your world champion is not supposed to be the workhorse. You know what I mean? They're the top of the top. They shouldn't have to prove their worth as champion because they have the top title. And look at the UFC, right? Now, I don't know if they necessarily have a weekly television, but you don't see the UFC's number one champion fighting for the championship on a random episode of whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Like, the biggest moments of all time are when you fight for the biggest championship of all time. I'm sorry, you make the title seem less when you give us those championship moments. This next statement I'm going to make, I already know is going to be misconstrued as like cold and heartless. I'm sorry. I get what Tony Khan is saying. Some fans can't afford the pay-per-views, so we're going to give them a championship match so that they can see the best of the best wrestle on AEW television. That's great. But I'm sorry. If you can't afford the pay-per-view, or you can't meet up with a buddy who has the pay-per-view, then I'm sorry, you're just going to have to miss the big moments. Your big moments should be reserved for your big shows. Because when you start giving out big moments too frequently, if everything's a big moment, then nothing is a big moment. And so when Kenny Omega beats MJF, that's a big moment. Imagine how much bigger it would have been in Montreal, Canada, with thousands more people in the stands and a multitude more people watching the pay-per-view. But you give it to your crowd at a small venue with maybe 500,000 to 600,000 people watching on TBS plus HBO Max. And the moment is big, but because it's on the weekly show, guess what? Friday night comes around and SmackDown will do something that you forget about the moment for a minute. It's not as big as a moment when it's on free TV. It's not, because here's the deal. We've seen Darby Allin beat MJF. We've seen Kenny Omega beat MJF on free TV. We've seen Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre and CM Punk and Sami Zayn play charades with the WWE Championship on free TV for months now. Why do I even care about the pay-per-view then? What? So let me flip the argument. You're going to give a good product to those who can't afford the pay-per-views, but you degrade the title, you degrade the purpose of the championship and the big matches on the pay-per-views for the loyal fans who buy every pay-per-view. You make the pay-per-view matches seem a little bit less important because you have a title match on every single episode. But even within the CM Punk and Kenny Omega thing, like, the similarity there is it probably shouldn't happen on free television. But there are differences. There are levels to how outrageous the championship changes were. So let's start with CM Punk. Well, Sami Zayn had the belt for 9 days. There was already a whole lot of pushback on Sami Zayn winning the title in the first place. I can almost guarantee you now, Sami Zayn only won the belt at Saudi Arabia. One, as a thank you for taking a pay cut, as it was rumored he did. Two, because they were in Saudi Arabia and they needed a big time pop from that crowd. So you put the guy that's Syrian and has similar religious beliefs and you give him the title in that area. What's ridiculous is you go to Monday Night Raw, you have a title defense for a SmackDown championship, and CM Punk shows up, takes Cody Rhodes' spot because they're in Chicago, and now CM Punk is champion because they're in Chicago. So what, CM Punk is going into SummerSlam as champion, and what's he going to have? A big SummerSlam moment? Is he going to lose the title there at SummerSlam? I wonder. We're getting Punk versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, I'm assuming. Why put the belt on Sami in the first place? It makes no sense. If Punk was going to win the belt anyway in Chicago, Sami should have lost, and Punk could have won and started a new story. You made Sami Zayn look like the next big thing for 9 days, bro. And now all of a sudden nobody gives a fuck about Sami Zayn. It makes no sense. Why couldn't Sami Zayn hold the belt until SummerSlam, right? So just the duration of the title, and it wasn't even that great of a match from what I saw. So again, you're using this as a prop, and here's the deal, because WWE, I don't think necessarily cares about storytelling when it comes to the title. They care about how do we get the biggest pop, the biggest moment, and the most money. What's going to get us the clicks on YouTube so we can monetize the shit out of this and make some money? What's going to make the advertisers happy? Because, NBC Universal wants CM Punk to be the face of SmackDown, so now he can have the title and be on top and be in all the infomercials and be in some TV shows, and we can do some crossover stuff with CM Punk on NBC. That's what this is they care about the money more than the story, and so that's why it's like, what the fuck is going on, bro? None of this makes sense. So this gets a big zonk, bro, because it didn't need to happen like this. So not only do you have a free here's the setup, right? So everybody's expecting Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes, and we're like, oh, here we fucking go again, you know? And then, I don't know, I didn't watch Monday Night Raw this week. I typically don't watch the week stuff. You know this now. For some reason or another, Cody Rhodes wasn't there. And Sami Zayn's opponent was now a mystery to Sami Zayn. And lo and behold, it's CM Punk. And so CM Punk comes back, gets this enormous pop in Chicago like he always does, and wins the championship belt. All right, fine. What's next? This doesn't lead us to anything. And now you're on the road to SummerSlam, which, I mean, do they even have a July pay-per-view? Let me look. Pay-per-view schedule 2026 WWE. In July, they have I guess, yeah, the only show they have in July would be AAA's Verona de Escalando, Arena San Marcos in Mexico, but they don't have a WWE pay-per-view between now and August 1st, so I guess technically July would be SummerSlam. It's just August 1st, so I'm assuming they have 2 August pay-per-views then. Just timing-wise, that would probably make the most sense. Oh yeah, that's right. They fucking moved Money in the Bank back a couple weeks. So no August pay-per-view unless they announce something else. So you have till August 1st now to tell a story of CM Punk and what Cody Rhodes, I am assuming. I don't know, because CM Punk took a spot. We're going to go back to that. All this is to get these big moments, right? There's no story. All WWE cares about is big moments. Trash. Right? This ain't pro wrestling anymore. It's just cartoon bullshit. You know what I mean? So no, I don't like it. There's no point to it. There was no what this does is it makes Sami Zayn winning the title just absolutely irrelevant because he lost it after 9 days. It'd be like if Darby Allin beat MJF and won the belt, and then the very next week he lost it to Kevin Knight or something like that. You know what I mean? It would make his win very basically meaningless. Sami Zayn winning the title is just meaningless. But now he's a Grand Slam champion, and he can say he won the world title and blah, 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 take a pay cut and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, trash. On the other hand, last night, Kenny Omega beat MJF for the World Championship. And what I can say is I didn't like the fact that Kenny had to win it last night. I didn't like that the stipulation that if Kenny lost, he would never be able to defend for it was there. But it makes a little bit more sense in storyline, right? So from everything that I've read, Kenny Omega was set on the 28th of July. Would it have been the 28th? No, it would be the 24th, I think. Because the 28th is a Wednesday. When is Redemption? '26th. Yeah. On the 26th of July, Kenny Omega was going to beat MJF anyway for the world title. Now, everything I've read said this had to get moved up, possibly because MJF is actually dealing with a legitimate injury. And so for this matter, okay, it makes a little bit of sense. I still don't like it, right? Max was still fighting hurt anyway. Build this to Redemption and let them have the match at Redemption would have been my preferred idea. But here's the thing, and Jonathan Coachman said it really well in a video today, I believe. Whereas Sami Zayn and CM Punk was some bullshit put together match that wasn't really good, to be honest. MJF and Kenny Omega gave you a really good match, so that's what gives some credit, right? So this was already the story. They're just pushing the story up due to a possible legitimate injury, and the match was really good, and it told a really good story, and they progressed the story, right? Because now it's Omega versus Ospreay is the goal at All In August. And now, but yet you had Ospreay help Omega at the end of there by taking the Dynamite Diamond ring from MJF. So now there's this interesting place now of who's the heel, who's the face. Does it even matter at this point? What's the stipulation going in? And I like to just say, I'm pretty sure I was the first one on this for this podcast to say, if it's Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, and I'm still sticking to my guns here. Omega is the champion. I'm willing to bet the match at Wembley Stadium, which, by the way, the last time we had an Omega versus Ospreay match was Forbidden Door 2021 or 2022. I can't quite remember. And Wembley Stadium. So they're finishing their, their feud at Wembley Stadium again. I think Omega won last time. I think Ospreay wins this time. And I think there's going to be a bigger stipulation than just the world title on the line. I think Kenny Omega's going to up the ante here and say, bro, if you win, you get the title, and I'll retire. And I'll stop wrestling. And Kenny Omega's career will be ended by Will Ospreay at Wembley Stadium. And just from the very beginning of them telling this story. By the way, this has been built over the last several months. I can't remember exactly when the first promo happened, when they were both in the doctor's room talking. It just from there on, I was like, this is going to, at one point, this is going to be a title versus career type scenario. I already felt the vibes, and I think that's where we're going. I don't like the decision that Kenny Omega wins the belt on free television. But does it not make a little bit more sense? One, you continue the story because you're coming out of the Forbidden Door, and so you're still building towards something anyway. You hadn't really started a story for redemption, and so now you move up this timeline of Kenny Omega winning the belt, but now you can get to now you have 2 months to tell the picture perfect ending to All In. It gives Tony Khan a little bit of time to let this breathe a little bit. And so I'm excited to see where this is. I'm excited by the outcome. I'm not excited by the timing necessarily. But let me know your thoughts, guys. I mean, that's really all we were going to talk about on this show tonight. We're about 30 minutes into here. I figured if my guy could have made it tonight, that we would have a little bit more discussion here, and it would make it to the hour mark. But we're going to probably cut this live stream off a little bit short tonight. And we'll be back next Thursday with another episode. And I think I'll try and get his take on some of this as we let it breathe out, right? But this is just my last urge to tell these companies here. Enough is enough, guys. It's time to treat your top titles like they're top titles. It's time to what's the incentive to buy a pay-per-view if you're going to give them title matches for free? I'll just leave it there. Y'all have a good weekend. For SmackDown tomorrow. World Cup's almost coming to an end. You know what? I'll end the show there. I'll end the show doing a Mid Card Meltdown on the World Cup. just for a moment, because I was also going to throw this in a little bit and bring back some sports talk on this show as American football, the best football, is about to come back in about a month or so. I commented on somebody's post the other day about the Egypt game the other day, Egypt Argentina, and I like all the European arrogance about soccer is absolutely asinine to me. And everyone's like, "Oh, your country hasn't even won a World Cup ever." Right? That's countless European countries too, bro. That's countless Latin America, Central America, South America, Africa. There's a lot of countries that haven't won a World Cup. But here's the distinct difference, because I looked this up the other day. When people are like, why is the U.S. soccer program not doing better? Like they have really good athletes in other sports, but why not soccer? And this is why, right? And this is what I'm telling all these arrogant European assholes. Soccer is your number one sport. In terms of domestic product, so not like English Premier League or League Un or League A or whatever it is, the Spanish league, the Italian leagues, whatever. Just MLS, domestic product. The MLS is the 6th highest ranked sport in total viewership. That's behind the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, the NHL, and NASCAR. And I'm sure there's other sports that I didn't ask ChatGPT to think about that probably get higher viewership than the MLS. I'm thinking like tennis and golf. And so out of the 7 that I asked them about, the only sport that the MLS gets more viewership than is the UFC. Now, I think the WNBA at this point might get more viewership than the MLS, right? It's our 6th most popular sport, and it might be actually lower in America, right? So the fact that the United States of America, in a sport that they give on a fraction, like a minuscule fraction of time to, where the most athletic of athletes usually go to the NBA or the MLB or the NFL. If you didn't make it in the NFL, you're going to NASCAR to be tire changers, or maybe you're going into UFC. They're not playing at soccer, bro. When the culture of of America is the high school football quarterback, the starting quarterback dates the cheerleader, not the soccer player, where your best soccer player knows the best way to like be somebody in high school is to be the kicker on the football team. That's why like nobody gives a fuck about soccer in the United States of America. And yet we're still top 16 every single year out of every single European and Central American, Latin America, South American, African, Asian country that gives a lot more time and attention to soccer. We're still one of the top 16 teams every year. Imagine if we gave it the attention we give the NBA or the MLB or the NFL. Imagine if we put the money and the time and the resources to an academy program that we can produce world-class soccer players. We would win it every year. And so my response to these arrogant European people is, give me your 22 best American football players. Let's go. What happens when your quarterback has Myles Garrett running down its face? The United States would win a World Cup of American football every single time. We win. Hockey's not even that big in America, though it is getting bigger, especially in the South. We just won the men's and the women's Olympics in soccer or in hockey, right? Our women's soccer team is pretty good. Women's soccer is pretty popular in the States, I would say. More popular probably than the MLS. I believe we won the Summer Olympics in basketball. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost certain that's the case. And then, like, in 2028, there's a really good chance when flag football becomes an Olympic sport, the United States will win that, hands down. And there's a really good chance the starting quarterback of that team used to play NBA basketball at a really high level by a man by the name of Rajon Rondo, one of the highest ranked flag football quarterbacks in America, Rajon Rondo. Nobody gives a shit. Like, I'm sure there's more people who care more about swimming and golf and tennis and water polo than they care about soccer in the United States. And if we cared more about it, we would win every time. So you're lucky we don't, because we still finish in the top 16 every single year at the minuscule amount of care that we give it. That's my rant, that's how end the show. We'll tune back in next week. Hopefully my guy Cody Marinero will show back up. We can have a big discussion. I may continue this discussion with him present. We might talk about some extra stuff as well. Enjoy your weekend, and until next week, y'all stay saucy. This is the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I'm Junkyard James. See y'all next week.
This is wrestling without the filter. This is Beyond the Junkyard.